Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of the Stay on Course podcast. My name is Julie Riga. I'm the host of the show. And so I've been doing this show for about 4 years, and I'm super excited to be here as not only as the host, but as the guest. Today we're doing a Julie Riga episode. So Julie Riga Stay on Course podcast. I just need to explain to people what the Stay on Course podcast is about. The Stay on Course podcast is about legacy, purpose, and ingredients for success. Legacy and purpose. I set out 4 years ago to honor my father's legacy. And in doing so, I created the Stay on Course podcast so that we could remember him every time we said stay on course. Every time somebody says stay on course, I think of my dad. And I think of my dad because when I went through a very hard time in my life in my early 30s, my father used to say, Julie, if the world falls down on your shoulders, brush it off and keep going your way. Stay on course. Have faith in Jesus. Have faith in God, and all things will be okay. Well, I had a hard time in life. Imagine that. I had a hard time in life. I'm sure that if you're listening out there, you may feel that you're having a hard time in life. And I think that is normal. I think everybody has a hard time in life because there are lessons to be learned here. And lessons to be learned don't always come at the cost of being easy. And I need to remember that as I raise my child, to allow her to have the hard lessons in life, because it's through our lessons that we grow. So I like to see things as lessons rather than failures. So maybe we should talk about it in that context. Lesson number one. My lesson number one was when I was a kid. I had a hard time when I was a kid. I was sick. I had Graves' disease, and nobody knew it. Nobody knew I had a sickness, and it screwed my life up for a long time. It took away my confidence. I did not have confidence as a kid. I lost out on my high school years. In fact, I haven't told this story, but I'm going to tell it now. I spent some of my high school years having lunch in the bathroom. And I was having lunch in the bathroom because I had no friends, because I was awkward and I was sick. And they started making fun of me at 5 years old. 5 years old. And so when people start making fun of you at 5 years old, you become a version of yourself. You become a version of yourself because of the circumstance. And I think that's what happens in life. We become a version of ourselves because of the circumstances. And I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. This is not a pity party, Julie, woe is me story. That's not this story. That's not why we're here today. I'm here to pull down the curtain to the past so that you understand why I have the tenacity and the consistency to do what I'm doing right now. Because I had some lessons to learn, hard lessons to learn. And it's because of those lessons that I became the unique individual that I am today. Okay? A unique individual, I would call myself. I'm not saying I am this, I'm not the greatest American hero. I'm not that. But I am a person of conviction, and I am a person of purpose. And purpose means so much to me. And I'll tell you why. It's because I had to go through some things in life that purpose became so important. Even though these kids were making fun of me. This is a great story, by the way. This is a great story. The kids would make fun of me when I was a kid. Like, I think I was 5 years old. And in those moments where they would come at me with the words, 4 eyes are better than 2, 4 eyes are better than 2, whatever it is they were spewing out, whatever the flavor of the spew out of the moment was they would make fun of me and I would hear them make fun of me. But in the back of my head or in this quiet voice, I heard this. They don't know who you are. They don't know who you will become. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know who I was. That's what I heard in my mind as they were making fun of me. Now, where did this come from? I have no, God must have been talking to me. My angels must have been talking to me. Somebody was protecting me in those moments. They don't know who you are, and they don't know who you will become. And so as they began to spew these words to me, I began to say this, or hear this in my spirit. And those words carried me. They carried me through a very long season of kids doing things to me that were inappropriate. If those things would happen today, all those people would get that bullying thing. They would get I don't even know what it's called now, but they would be like expelled. It just wouldn't happen today. It wouldn't happen. And so I tell you this story because life is not perfect. We do not have a straightforward journey. And then fast forward a little bit. When I was 16, I had a surgery and they found out I had Graves' disease at 16. And I almost nearly died because I fell on the kitchen floor and I fractured my patella. And what happened was they had to take out a piece of my kneecap. And in doing so, they didn't know I had Graves' disease. And I went into the ICU afterwards because I wasn't waking up for my anesthesia. And that was a moment for me. That was a moment for me. Because in that moment, the doctor said to my mother, you're not going to know who your daughter is anymore. She's going to be a different version of herself. And that's what happened. By the time of January of my senior year, I would say, of high school, I became pretty much a normal human being. Because I think in my high school years, I was sick. I think before then, maybe I wasn't sick. But for sure, probably around adolescence, 14, 15, this happened to me. The sickness kind of creeped up. Because nobody knew I had it, which is weird. Nobody knew I had it until that moment. And then things started to change for me. I started to make friends. I had like my first friends when I was 17. And by the time I was graduating high school, I was like a normal human being. And so I was really fortunate because my parents had the money to send me to college and to send me to college away from the regular crowd.